Now you have different types of kings who don't want to be seen.
Yeah. Great point.
So they want to extract and pull all the energies of people underneath them, whether they identify with their nations or it's from outside nations, and just suck out all the wealth and everything else that these people have to keep themselves on top.
Yeah.
So in a way, they are actually enslaving everyone else other than them. Yeah.
Did you see the Nairobi Expressway?
Yeah,
they're adding the landscaping, the greenery on the pillars.
Yeah.
Did you see the Maasai grazing his animals?
If you look at how that expressway was made from Kenya's largest airport to the western side of the city, where we are saying these people are.
Yeah.
It's because I think they've gotten tired of taking too long in traffic.
Yeah.
When they want to take their flights.
Yeah, sure.
So in a way, it was made for them.
Yeah.
They want to carry the green suburbs all the way to the airport.
I have American perspective on it. Yeah. So Kansas City, 71 highway was built. I don't know how many years ago. I was into Kansas City history, but not the way I am in Kenya. I'm looking at things even differently because development is still a conversation here. In America, we're not discussing development so much. But 71 highway was built, let's say 2-3 decades ago, and it was controversial because it pushed some locals out of their land and it bypassed communities, right? Yeah. And the same conversation happens in New York City. I'm sure they're going to ignore that in Dallas because everybody in Dallas wants to be up. But it's happened in every urban community in America. I try to see everything on two sides of the coin now.
Yeah.
So on one side of the coin, I see that transportation is more organized now. It brings a little bit of order to the chaos. It brings safety. But on the other side of the coin, it also skips the communities. But I try to be a glass half full guy and say, even with Nairobi Expressway, okay, you've got your expressway now, so next you'll go down to the lower ground level and you'll work on developing that road better for the people that are walking, for the people that are pushing, I don't know what you call them, the maji carts, for the bodabodas, for the pedestrians, because the roads are not safe here, right? Like they're very chaotic, and if you have a nice car, there's a good chance of getting it damaged within your first outing. You can easily experience some damage. Now we're talking about colonized world problems, right? But we're here, so we have to look at where we're at now.
So I think for me, the point I was trying to bring out is the amount of money you spend in a project.
Yeah.
Vis-a-vis the number of people it's going to help.
I see.
So if the same amount of money was used to build light rails throughout the city. Yeah. Like you'd move, tens of thousands of people easily. Like the way you're saying the roads are not safe.
Yeah.
But you'd move people through the city. But here you just, it's good. It's a good to have. It's not really a must-have right now.
Yeah.
It's a nice to have. Yeah. So if you consider how the rest of the population in the city are living, the CY, like how that dollar, if you use your term.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, was spent, and versus the number of people, it's helping.
And I told you off camera, I don't like to go too deep into local politics, and I don't want to piss off MPs and MCAs. I have some outlooks on that, but I'll just simply say, I know there's some funds that could be more responsibly spent. Just like me, I smoke cigarettes every day. I have money that can be more responsibly spent also. So I'm not speaking from a soapbox like I know the answer. And as far as the expressway, it's built now. Yeah, it's a little bit Dallas-esque. We're getting that high-rise, highway. Hopefully they add a light rail to it. I would love to see that. We had that same combo in Kansas City. They were doing a lot of construction, but Kansas City, as much as they want to be international, there's no simple transport from the airport to downtown. And they could have built the light rail a long time ago. Instead, they built a downtown trolley for tourists.
That's a big point. The Kenya we have and the development we are doing, sometimes is for tourists. It's for sure. I mean,
yeah. Oh no, that expressway.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to ignore, let's say you have a neglected backyard.
Yeah.
Are you gonna take anybody out your back door? You're gonna always take them out the front door.
Out the front door, yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like on one side of this expressway conversation is creating an avenue to ignore a certain section of your community, so you can take them to the best side of the community. Yeah. That's absolutely a factor. I couldn't dispute whatsoever.
Yeah. But it's good for optics.
Yeah, it's good for optics.
Yeah. So.
Now, during the Uhuru era, we've got the Northern Airport Road, which is just outside of this neighborhood.
Yeah.
We've got Outer Ring Road.
Yeah.
We've got Eastern Bypass. Yeah. And there's others.
Yeah, it's opened up.
Yeah. Thika Road, Superhighway.
Yeah, that was in Kibaki.
That was Kibaki?
That was Kibaki,
okay.
Yeah.
Wow. And it looks good though. I mean, it's a good looking highway.
I mean, it's survived a lot of years.
Yeah, I mean, somebody did a good job.
Yeah, they did a good job.
Because I thought it was newer than that, honestly, because it looks nice.
Yeah.
So nonetheless, Nairobi, for perspective, is, I keep mentioning Dallas. I don't love Dallas by any means, but Dallas is a great example of like mega development. And I think Dallas is like the new New York City as far as technology, media. It's a major hub, and there's so much money moving. Oh, and they have oil. New York doesn't have oil. But Dallas, or Nairobi is, you can compare it to something like Dallas, Texas. It's like between Dallas and New York. How many millions of people are here? I should have checked that.
In Nairobi?
Yeah, it's like 6.5 million, or is it more than that?
Okay, there's a population that lives in and out.
Right.
Every day, but I think the one that is stationary is about 4.5 to 5 million.
Yeah.
There's also a big, every day they commute.
Right.
Yeah.
And then
there's satellite towns that are nearby.
And then of course you have, poorly documented communities within Nairobi too. So, some documentation I've looked at claimed that, I don't remember now, 60 or so percent of Nairobians live in unsettled, informal settlements. Is that true? Can that really be true? Informal settlements is the political term for ghetto.
Yeah. You see, it's how many people living per square meter? No, not square meter. Square kilometer.
Yeah.
So if you go to those informal settlements, like there's really, like you can have 10 by 10, 10 foot by 10 foot room.
Yeah.
That is housing an entire family of maybe 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Compared to someone with in a 4-bedroom and only having 3 people.
Yeah.
And 1 spare guest.
Yeah.
Guest room. So this way you can have more people in a small area. So it's probable. Other times, those statistics sometimes are used by NGOs to raise funds. Yeah,
and they're one thing I've learned when I research a neighborhood here, sometimes it's hard to get accurate information. Yeah. So like Soweto they claim, but it was through an NGO documentation that I looked at, they say around 100,000 people. Yeah. Now Kibera, and I even called it East Africa's biggest hood at one time, or slum, and I try not to use that word anymore because it seems unfair, and I know there's some rich people in Kibera.
Yeah.
So they say it's the biggest slum in East Africa, but other documentations say there's about 250,000 people there, which would say that it's big. My hometown's 6,000 people. Yeah. It's big, but there could likely be bigger. But it's a disputed number too.
I mean it's 250,000 is a lot of people.
That is a lot of people.
It's a lot of people. I mean, I've seen towns which are only 30,000 people and they're busy.
Yeah.
So when you put 250 in a small, a small area, acreage, then you can feel the congestion.
By going to Samburu with Begin North Adventures, by taking those trips and being away from this urban lifestyle? Like, what has it shown you, let's say, about your country and about yourself?
The first thing that got me, I remember getting into a manyatta. A manyatta is like a small hut. And you have the family where they're living, they have the small kitchen there, where they sleep, and the children and everyone else. And it's made out of earth and dung. And that is it, that's all their life, just around here. And I'm like, you have all these campaigns about going green, carbon emissions.
Yeah.
I'm like, these people live off so little of the earth.
Yeah.
Just by, there are no fridges, there's no all this carbon, they call emissions and what have you. And I'm like, it's the life they're advocating, then it should be this one.
Yeah.
This should be the people who are on the front stage, and they're like the best conservative, they have conserved the environments because they only take what they need. They don't hold anything. If they go for firewood, they only fetch the dead logs and the fallen twigs, and only pick for today, and leave the rest. They don't use the roads and use the earth rich. If you go, the way they take care of the animals and they live together with the wild animals. Then I noticed something else. Controversial. You have conservancies where people are fencing wildlife inside certain areas. But these pastoralists, some who have been grazing in these places, living together with animals. So when you put a fence, are you trying to fence the animals to stay inside, or are you fencing the people out? Then you say this is a partnership with the community and put some tourism facilities there. So it earns an income. Maybe a certain percent of a percent gets to use a toilet or a school, a classroom. And you say you've given back to the community. But then you've taken this land, which is community land and has no title deed, and you say you partner with the community. But in 50 years, they have taken a different lifestyle. Maybe have gone through school, education, and everything. So one partner is old, and you're left with the land. So who is this that's left with the land?
So it's a roundabout land grab.
Exactly. And you have these guys are controlling like tens of millions of acres of more than 30% of the country.
I was on a matatu one time north of Nairobi, between here and Elementaita. And suddenly I see giraffe. There's a conservatory, or however you say, to the right. As you're going north, it's on your right. And that's one of those situations you're talking about right now.
I mean
Wow.
The wild animals are there. These people have lived with the wild animals.
In Hukonashita, they just, that was life.
When they discovered Africa, because like there were no people living there before, who didn't know that it existed. But when they discovered, they came and saw Africa. That's when they found the wild animals. But then they came and started doing animal spotting. Killing the animals for sport. The Africans didn't do that.
Right.
They wouldn't kill a gazelle if they didn't want the meat. For taking photos. And after they have killed so many, now they came around about and said we are going to conserve.
Are these foreigners doing this? Or is it foreigners and locals doing it?
It's the foreigners. I mean, the organizations which are there.
It's NGOs.
It's NGOs, yes.
I wonder how they can even manage.
It's big money. I mean, it's...
Is it only that they're able to do it with a certain local's cooperation, or are they tricking people?
What they do is they take a few elders
to
a hotel somewhere. Give them soft life for a few days. And then have some discussions, and they send some papers.
A savory sales pitch.
And send some papers, take some of their grandkids to school.
Wow.
Free.
Wow. So
it's a big topic. I think you should look into that.
That is a very big topic, and it sounds like it's a long-term game. It's not to grab land for tomorrow, but to have land for decades later.
Yeah, you see these like for us Kenyans, we see life every 5 years because of the election cycle.
Yeah.
But some of these families who have had money for centuries,
yeah,
they think in 100 years.
Right.
Which the person now might not have the vision.
Yeah.
And then what they do is when there's drought, instead of using whatever they're calling conservancy money to help the locals have pasture and continue keeping the animals, they buy off the animals at a low price. So they're like, instead of it dying, why don't you get 1,000 shillings for your cow?
Wow.
Yeah. And then what do? They take the cows now to the ranches, the conservancies, not which are now like ranches.
Yeah.
And feed the cows the grass that they kept the locals out of.
Yeah.
And now they become the ranches. And the locals have no cows left because the next time it rains, they have already paid the money, school fees, and of course, you stay with cash, you do something with it.
That's a big topic for researching because I've been around Kenya a bit, but there's so much I haven't seen, and this must be happening in many places. Yeah.
It's like the entire of northern Kenya.
Nah.
All the way, sometimes stretching all the way to Tana River.
Now, okay.
These lands are arid and semi-arid.
Yes.
So a lot of 90% of Kenyans have no interest in it because they won't farm there, they won't grow any crops.
Now, from what I had read about a couple of the tribes that are in Samburu before, and from what I was seeing, when the British came, they didn't like that land either. And they left it mostly just to be what it was going to be. And that resulted in a diverse set of tribes congregating there. Some were already there, some were fleeing other conflicts. But now you're telling me that now they see the value. And now they're doing land grabbing in that area. And you know what it reminds me of? Again, America. It sounds like Oklahoma. It sounds like Oklahoma because they sent natives there because they thought it was this useless, dusty, kind of southern, hot place. Yeah. And then they realized there was oil in the ground. So now even when you buy a property in Oklahoma, you might not get mineral rights to your land because someone else owns the ground underneath your topsoil.
Yeah, your topsoil.
Yeah, you only get the topsoil and what you put on top.
Yeah,
Wow.
There are stories, okay, I have no like documents proving anything.
Yeah.
They say to be minerals in those areas.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
They've done oil exploration and they stopped. I don't know what happened even to the Turkana one.
Yeah.
They were producing and they stopped producing it anymore.
Wow.
There geologists who have found aquifers which are like they can supply Kenya with 70 years of water.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot there. So eventually, because it's a long game, they make policies and laws and lobbying that are going to favor them. And then when they start extraction, everything will be bound by law for hundreds of years. And
there's some sisal fields in Kilifi County.
Yeah.
I think it's a British guy that has that contract.
Yeah.
And this was like 100 years contract.
Yeah.
And it's about to expire.
Yeah.
So I've been getting bits and pieces of these long-term contracts happening, or even some contracts ending. So then it becomes a question of, okay, which tribe is getting this land? Who's entitled to take over this area? Or will the contracts renew? Or is the government going to take it and allocate it their own way? So, there's so many dynamics happening.
Yeah, there's an African author. It's called Ngugi wa Thiong'o, and he said that during colonization, when the white man left the country, if he was called Smith, the ranch was called Smith Ranch. So they just removed the board for Smith Ranch and called it Kamau Ranch. Yeah. The land didn't go back to the village. It went back to individuals who are like the new Mzungu, Black Mzungu, in a way. Yeah. So the same way you have the system that was operating there still persists. the colonization system still persists.
Yeah.
The way it was, before African was social, social communities.
Yeah.
Like the way we give the example of giving birth. But now the British came with stratification. You have social stratus, where you have a tiny minority controlling another tier, and then this tier makes the rest of the population dependent on them. So when the white people left, they left the system.
Yeah.
So if they manage to come to the top, they can only use that machine to extract whatever they need without being there, without being present physically. Yeah. So basically, you just want to access top people in certain places, and you can access anything you need in the country.
Yeah.
So if that works, why do you even need to be there physically?
Hey, it sounds like world power. The same structure, is it not a mirror of the same structure? Like the Fed in America running the federal government, but they always mention the Fed, but they don't highlight the fact that the Fed is not the federal government. It's a private banking organization that prints the money, they control the interest rates. I always say, how the world's being governed by people we'll never know. And you might hear their names, but you start mentioning their names, you're gonna start getting flagged, like reported, called crazy. Kanye West, I don't know how you feel about Kanye. I love Kanye, I think he's a little crazy. I think he's trying to figure some things out, but I do also think that he is a Black American billionaire who has seen things that most of us will never have access to. And I think he's learned some things that we'll never be privy to firsthand. And he did one presidential rally speech. He actually registered to run. And whenever he was giving that speech, he started name dropping. They had to shut him down. He didn't filter when he had to filter. And I still love that dude. I hope the best for him and everything he has going on. But it was amazing to see someone, and also someone of his color, have that platform and to talk that shit. Like, I liked it. I liked it a lot. The world is a wild place. And maybe it's too late to point this out. I think I'll just have to continue pointing this out throughout my talks online and everything, and my talks that I have in private. But I always tell Kenyans, like, don't get down like these things are just happening to you. And I'm not saying that to minimize everything you're talking about either, but these things are happening on a global scale, and it's happening to multiple nations. So it's not like just a Kenyans only problem, because sometimes people will talk to me about Kenyan issues and they'll speak about it as if they're being picked on, like Kenya is being picked on and everybody else is doing great. And I still feel like Kenya is doing better than a lot of other African nations. Again, I don't want to sound like I'm trying to minimize what's happening, but we're dealing with a crazy, crazy world for sure.
Yeah, I mean, there are three ways of looking. I look at things. There's the local and the global.
Yeah.
Like how the global is affecting the local, and how the local is affecting the global. And the way you say it's like something that is happening to nations, to countries.
Yeah.
And you can almost relate, maybe not word for word or step for step, but it's happening to all the countries. So it's like there's a small clique of people, or whoever they are, or families, or whatever, corporations, and they desire to rule the world. And how do you take power? It's through domination.
Yeah.
So they have maybe long term, 100, 200, 300 years.
Yeah.
And they have, small dripping. They say like constant dripping. We make the stone hollow. Like pierce. Like water. So it's like they're doing that constant. Like it's been like this for many years.
Yeah.
Someone say.
You say many years. How many years are you saying centuries?
Yeah, it could go back to Rome, the Rome Empire.
And I think it very well does, or could. I'm not a historian by any means, but I definitely think there's some power structure still remaining from those people in particular that you mentioned, and I think there's some other institutions of power that are linked in with that directly, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, okay, the Roman system has been perfect. Okay, from the Greek actually, as much as the history that we know. Before, kings would work for their people. Like they would go fight, win wars, because they need the pride of their people. They need the people.
I never looked at it that way. That's interesting. That's why I like Mike. Yeah, he just made me look at why kings actually did something good sometimes.
Yeah,
more than just ruling. And
more than just ruling. I mean, they would make sure that their kingdom thrives.
Yeah.
But now you have different types of kings who don't want to be seen.
Yeah. Great point.
So they want to extract and pull all the energies of people underneath them, whether they identify with their nations or it's from outside nations, and just suck out all the wealth and everything else that these people have to keep themselves on top.
Yeah.
So in a way, they are actually enslaving everyone else other than them.
I said in the beginning, you're super well read, well studied, and it blew my mind from the beginning. Like, when did you start being that way, and what drives you to continue?
I think it started with my father, my late father, passed away in 2018. Yeah.
2018.
2018, yeah.
Wow.
He's he had this like library of books, and he was way back in the village.
Yeah.
I think anytime you find a new book, so you have everything from USSR wars and everything. So I got an interest. So whatever he was reading, I would like be over his shoulder and reading whatever he's reading, whether it's the newspaper.
Yeah.
So anytime now his friends would come and they are discussing some topics, I would hide somewhere in a corner and I'm listening to the adults.
You were ear hustling.
Yeah.
We call that ear hustling. Wow.
And I would say like, I'm so quiet, where am I? And then he would call my name and then I would, you'd hear me, I'm just a few meters from where they are. Get yourself busy, stop listening to others discussing topics. So I think from that, from a very young age, I got an interest in, these world affairs and religion and
wow.
And I kept studying and so I didn't notice, like for me it's normal until you talk to someone and they're like, that is different, or I didn't see it that way.
Your level of introspection and lack of boundary is not normal in our system, like in society.
Yeah.
I mean, in American society, maybe it's more normal than here, I don't know. But even there, you're like pushing above a lot of people's social constraints. And it goes back to, it seems you're not as caught up in identity politic as a lot of people are in the West. Or in my family, like we're small town people, so over the years when I try to present something foreign, not foreign outside of America, but new ideas to one of my family members, they can seem intimidated or annoyed or bothered or even offended, but it seems like you don't know any boundaries as far as what you're willing to consider and to ingest.
I have an uncle also who influenced me a lot. He's also late. He told me, if you know yourself, you know God. And if you know God, you know who you are. So in a way, what that taught me is, forget what you see, because that is not it. Whether it's you saying you're white or you're not, or I'm black or I'm not. This whole thing is housing. There's something else inside that doesn't identify as color or location or geography or all those things. And it's unique. It doesn't matter. Tomorrow I could be born white, but whatever it is in me is constant. It doesn't matter whatever neighborhood I came to and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So when you detach yourself from all these markers and identities, then you have no judgment for anything, because now you see everything from a neutral point.
Wow. Fabulous, man. How old did your uncle and father make it to? Just on the topic of what we were talking about earlier, lifestyle diseases.
Yeah. My father got about 70. My uncle got about 84.
Did they pass from some kind of disease that was brought by this new era?
My dad, I think he died of a heart attack.
Hey.
Oh, yeah, he just collapsed. And
wow.
that's it. But we didn't do a postmortem. I mean, we didn't see anything. I don't know, maybe he had blood pressure and he didn't know.
Yeah.
And maybe thought his headache.
Yeah.
Because I think we come from our fathers. They like do everything for the family. They make sure you have the best education, the best medical attention to the children and the woman, the mother. But for them, they like, they like take everything. Like I have a small headache, take a Panadol, paracetamol, and and they're fine.
Yeah.
So in a way, I think they neglect themselves, not doing those checkups and all that, because they feel like everything they had is a sacrifice to the family. So I honor him for that, but I should have known better. I think when I got of age, I would have told him, what, you have to do those checkups, no matter how healthy you feel. That kind of thing.
My mom is going through all those right now, getting her lungs checked, all these different things. And she's finding a few small things, but her husband just passed last year, and he passed around the same age as your dad. And he had already had cancer before. And then, gosh, man, when he died and they did the, what do you call, postmortem? Hey, there was such a long list of things they said he had. And the crazy thing is, after he had cancer the first time, he stopped smoking cigarettes. He smoked 2 to 3 packets a day. He quit completely. He stopped taking sugar. He stopped taking a lot of the snacks he was taking. He stopped taking salt. And still, he tried to do everything right. But at the end of the day, it was still GMO foods. There were still processed foods. And those processed foods have a lot of sodium. Even our canned vegetable has a lot of sodium in it. And a lot of sodium. And then the canned liners are reported to be cancerous. So I'm sorry to hear that. I was hoping you were going to say they lived to be 90 or 100. Another one of those awesome
my grandma lived
stories.
To be, they lived to up to those.
Grandma, she stayed in the village.
Yeah.
She never integrated into urban life.
At some point she did. I mean, because her daughters came to stay in Nairobi, to work in Nairobi, and got married here. And she would also come in, and there's only so much you can do to isolate yourself from. Because I've gone to these very rural areas, like in the north, and you find still, you find they still have those small juices, the one that you mix, there's powder. And it's they have all these pictures of fruits on them, and it's gotten to those places. And you're like, there's no way these people are going to escape this. So
when smartphones came out, I acted like an old man. I was only in my 20s, but I was like, it's this smartphone stuff, And then my brother gave me his ex-girlfriend's old iPhone 4. And as soon as I got on an iPhone, I said, "This is what y'all been doing? This is what you've been doing. This is crazy, man." As much as we want to resist the change, you either have to just go live in the woods, or adapt and make do with the change the best that you can. And at this point, I don't want to get rid of my cell phone. Not the life I'm living now. Only if I can be on a fully functional shamba with local water source and I know that I have everything I need right here. That's the only way I can get rid of my phone.
Yeah, but the air will transport.
And things are still going to come into Yeah.
Do you know, the other day I was watching a documentary.
Yeah.
You know the Amazon forest.
Yeah.
And the Sahara Desert.
Yeah.
In Africa is one of the largest, world's largest.
Yeah.
Deserts, yeah. And then there are these winds that come and carry dust, over the clouds.
Yeah.
And then push that all the way across the Atlantic?
Yeah.
And it's
on the jet stream.
Yeah, and it rains in the Amazon.
Hey.
The fertilizer of Amazon forest comes from Africa.
Right.
Through the wind. So
yeah.
You can imagine how there's no way to hide in the woods.
Yeah.
If they put some, radioactive materials in Sahara, it can find itself to. South America.
I was saying how like I can present something to someone and they can get offended. Like I don't have that problem here, and I say, look. Or my favorite is when someone says, I don't do politics. I say, that's okay, because politics do you. Especially face mask era. I said, you're wearing a face mask right now. Don't tell me you don't do politics. If you didn't do politics, you wouldn't be worried about the police finding you or arresting you. Or you wouldn't be worried about this corona. Because you don't do politics, So I've always said, no one man is an island.
Yeah.
You can't fully isolate from anything, and I think you just reiterated that even better than I ever have.
Yeah.
Because it's going to come through the jet stream, it's going to come through the air, and also, it comes through vibrations. Whether if you're in tune with vibration or not, like everything is contagious. Things are passing through. So.
Yeah.
Could you be a politician? Would you ever go into politics? No desire? Not at all. You like to reserve yourself more and would not want to get involved in that public sphere? I only ask because you just seem like you would have some good solutions.
Yeah.
But you don't have to do that in politics, of course. It can be in business, it could be...
Okay, the reason why people go to politics is because of power. Because you think when you're powerful, you can influence certain things to be done. Like you can come, but I've seen, but they say power corrupts.
Yeah.
And you've seen, like I've seen enough examples of people who they were caring, they were meaning well, but then they get to power, they meet other people there. In 10 years spectrum, these people have changed totally. They've changed totally. I mean, it changes them. I don't know anyone who has managed to overcome.
Yeah.
Who has gotten power and managed to overcome. And even those who have done well, it makes you into a small god, and you feel now you want to continue become a dictator and continue staying in power. You feel like no one else can come and do what you did.
Yeah.
So I have no desire. Yeah. So that is why I say, if I had a vision, I would go more on the value of human life to matter more.
Yeah.
Even if those things, whether it's just people having water, even if they drink it today, they might not be photos of pipes showing where the water is coming. As a campaign re-election agenda.
Yes.
But people have drunk the water and they made their life easy. So that would be my vision. But where I see Kenya going, I see there'll be more buildings, there'll be more roads being made. We'll continue sinking in debt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like outsider looking in, I feel like Kenya is moving in a westerly direction. Like we discussed about the mirror.
Yeah.
We see it in the culture from our neighbor, with what music we hear coming from the neighbor's house. We see it in the adverts, in the radio. The Constitution here is a close mirror to the U.S. Constitution. And as far as like the plays the American political sphere is calling, I see those same plays getting called from here, not on every topic, but on many. And I've noticed this from the beginning, and I've asked people like, hey, you know, is Kenya following America, you know? So at this point, you know, when I first came to Kenya, I was sick, I came to get better, but I also had this sense that I was running away from the stresses of America. It took me a couple of years to realize that Kenya is not an island. You know, and I'm not separating from America by being here because the influence is so strong. So that leads me to say that I really pray for a strong, legitimate leadership to come into America because I know how much effect it's going to have here. So I do have concerns. And when I went to Naibus vlogging a few weeks ago, hey, it's a lot of import, and you get Egyptian imports here, and maybe South African sometime, and Tanzanian, but these were European import products. These were American brands in Kenya. I was shocked, and I've seen some of those brands before, but it was way more than I had ever seen before. So literally, if you ever get a chance to go to this Naibus here at Greenspan, that is what Walmart looked like in 1999. Before Walmart became the super center, and it was just Walmart standard, that's what it looked like. So I said, hey, maybe that's the direction we're going. And we're in Eastlands. And so it isn't like we're off in some leafy international suburb. You know, we're in a very local Kenyan side of the city, and we got basically a local Walmart going on. So I hope the best for Kenya. I hope the best for the world. Whatever's going on in the world is definitely going to dictate who Kenya's becoming. I see the development too. After the Corona era, when you arrive at JKA, you see difference right away. And I love to see the development. I just hope that Kenya maintains a level of respect for her people. I think some work needs to be done there, and America too, by far. So again, it's not just a Kenyan issue. I hope the world issues can sort themselves, man. Are you positive or negative about, like, do you think the world can correct her shit at this point?
If you study world history, we say like there were times like this, sometimes back. It doesn't matter how far you go, whether it's 100 years or 1,000 years, or whatever number of years you go. Like life is cyclic. It's like the seasons, the 4 seasons you have in the hemispheres. For us here, you have the dry season, the rainy season, and that kind of thing. The same way with the moon. You know, from crescent all the way to full moon, and then the phases disappears for another 2 weeks. And the sun every day coming and going to the equinox and Capricorns and all. So history repeats itself. There is nothing new. I mean, we might look at, like 1,000 years how people used to kill each other in wars. The same way in Ukraine, we're just using different weapons. So there's really nothing new.
Hey, so even food.
Even
the food, that's just part of what they were doing before. There's different methods, huh?
You see, like, there's a time when people are not eating grain.
Eating what?
Grains. Cereals. There were no cereals in their diet. It was either meat and fruits. And their body was adapted for that. And then sometimes, I think in 10,000 or 8,000 BC or thereabout, there's some documentary show, like there were some irrigation schemes, and they introduced grain to human diet. And our bodies had time with gluten and all that, dealing with that. So they were like, I'm sure there were people who were like, what are you people eating? What diet have you brought to these people? So the same way with the GMOs and everything. So there's a challenge for every season. So, and that is why I tell people, like, acknowledge the hardships, acknowledge the struggle, but don't waste your time, living a better tomorrow. Just try and make the best of today. Because it's only today you can make a history out of it. Like we are here, there's everything else going on in Kenya and the world and everywhere else. We're having a good time if we, taking this chat. I mean,
Kenyans have always told me life is for living.
Yeah. So
life is for living.
Yeah, you go to live now.
Yeah.
You go to make the most of today.
Yeah.
Now. Yeah, life may be hard, alright, sometimes. But you make do. I mean, it's not all that. You have to be positive. It's for yourself.
Yeah.
You can choose sometimes to be angry, but shove it for a while and live a little.
Okay, this is my last question. Who is God?
Who was?
Who
is
God? Yeah.
God is the expression of existence. Like everything else, everything that there is the expression of God. Whether you want to call it positive or negative, or whatever you want to call it, that is it. That is the expression.
I know I was talking about praying to God and thinking about the idea of like, am I praying to myself or am I praying to something else?
Yeah, I think the answer is in what I told you. My uncle told me.
Yeah.
If you know who you are, then you know God.
Yeah.
And if you know God, then you know who you are.
All right, Mike. I appreciate you so much, bro. Like, I wish we filmed the whole day. We would have had 5 hours of conversation. But I appreciate just so much how you help expand my mind, and the fact that you unapologetically put these things on social media to be ridiculed. I've seen you laughed at and ridiculed. The same thing happens to me. But any strong man or woman can take it as long as you're being your true, authentic self. And that's what people like saying nowadays, true, authentic self. So just keep being that, bro, because it's super dope.
Yeah.
All right.
Cheers, man.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, Caribou Sana, anytime. And hopefully we'll link up again and get back on camera. And one of these days, I'm going to take off up to Samburu with this guy.
Yeah.
So you guys can experience this magical Kenya outside of this urban environment that I keep showing. So thanks for tuning in. Peace and love, Kenya.